Natalie Harper was a professional storyteller. At 32, she ran a successful wedding photography business in Seattle, capturing the beautiful, intimate moments when two people chose forever. Her portfolio was a testament to love, a collection of joy, commitment, and hope. She believed in those stories with every fiber of her being. Her own love story had started at the University of Washington. She met Derek Harper in an economics class. He was the ambitious go-getter, and she was the creative dreamer. Friends said they were the perfect balance. Married young and built a life in a charming house in Ballard, a life filled with shared dreams and Natalie's weekend gardening. 8 years of marriage had its ups and downs, but Natalie believed they were manageable. Derek was a real estate developer, transforming Seattle's skyline with luxury condos. He worked long, grueling hours, and she respected his dedication, even when it meant eating dinner alone or attending events by herself. This was a sacrifice for their future, she told herself, a future where they would finally have more time together. Their 8th anniversary arrived on a rainy Seattle evening. Derek had promised to be home early for a special dinner. Natalie prepared his favorite meal, roasted salmon with herbs from their garden. She set the table with candles and their wedding china. The house smelled of fresh bread and infinite possibilities, but 6 o'clock came and went. Then 7, then 8. Natalie called Derek's phone again and again, but every call went straight to voicemail. A knot of worry tightened in her stomach. On wet roads, accidents happen. Emergencies strike without warning. She called his office, but no one answered. Then she tried his business partner, Marcus. He sounded surprised to hear from her. Derek left at 4, Marcus said, his voice laced with an odd hesitation. He said he had some important personal business. Important personal business. On their anniversary. Business that required him to turn off his phone. The words hung in the air, heavy and sharp. The reality she knew began to crumble. Acting on a gut feeling, an instinct honed by years of capturing truth through a lens, Natalie grabbed her camera. She drove through the pouring rain to Derek's newest project, a luxury building near Pike Place Market. His car was in the parking garage, right where she somehow knew it would be. She took the elevator up to the penthouse, a model unit Derek had been excited about. The door was unlocked. Inside, she heard laughter, soft voices, the sounds of two people who believed they were completely alone. Natalie raised her camera and stepped into the living room. There he was. Derek, standing by the massive windows, toasting with another woman. Natalie recognized her instantly. Vanessa Chen, the interior designer for the project. Derek's hand was on Vanessa's waist. A new diamond bracelet sparkled on Vanessa's wrist, catching the city lights. Natalie's camera clicked. Once, twice, 3 times. A professional habit documenting a personal apocalypse. Derek spun around, his expression shifting from joy to shock, then to pure panic. Natalie, he whispered, almost dropping his glass. This is not what it looks like. Natalie lowered her camera, her own voice surprisingly steady. It looks like you're re-celebrating our anniversary with another woman, while I'm at home with dinner and hope. Vanessa looked mortified and started for the door. I should go, she murmured. But Derek stopped her. No, he said, his gaze fixed on Natalie. You deserve the truth. We both do. The truth, as Derek explained with a chilling calmness, was that he'd fallen in love with Vanessa, was planning to ask for a divorce, but he wanted to wait until the development was complete. The diamond bracelet wasn't for Natalie. It was for Vanessa, marking their 6-month anniversary. The 6 months he'd been living a double life, while Natalie was out photographing other people's happy beginnings. How long have you been lying to me? Natalie asked, the answer already echoing in every late night. Every canceled plan, every distracted conversation they'd had for the past half a year. I never wanted to hurt you, Derek said, the timeless excuse of someone who chooses to inflict pain. You're a good person, Natalie. You deserve someone who loves you the way you deserve to be loved. But that person isn't me anymore. Natalie looked at the man she had built her life with. This stranger wearing her husband's face. The pain was a physical weight in her chest, but beneath it, she felt something else flicker. Relief. All the distance, the nagging feeling that something was wrong, it all suddenly made a terrible, gut-wrenching kind of sense. I want you out of the house by the end of the week, she said quietly. Take what you need. My attorney will be in touch. Derek looked shocked by her composure. He probably expected tears, begging, a dramatic scene. Natalie, we should discuss this rationally. The house, the finances, he started. She cut him off. Everything we built together ended the moment you chose someone else. She turned to leave, pausing at the door for one last look. I spent 8 years photographing love stories while mine was dying. That ends tonight. She walked out into the rain, the tears finally falling, mixing with the downpour. In her car, she gripped the steering wheel and let herself shatter. Not because she had lost Derek, but because she had lost so much time believing in a lie. The drive home was a blur of familiar streets she'd now have to unlearn. Back in the house that still smelled of a dinner that would never be eaten, she began to pack. Methodically, she boxed up his clothes, his books, his half of their life. She worked through the night, fueled by a strange new energy. By dawn, his entire life was in boxes by the door. Then, Natalie did something she hadn't done in years. She picked up her personal camera, the one she used for her own art, and started to photograph her own story. The empty side of the closet, the single plate on the dining table, her reflection in the mirror, her eyes red but impossibly clear. She was documenting the end of one chapter to make space for the next. Whatever came after this pain, this betrayal, this complete shattering of her world, it would be authentically hers. And as she watched the Seattle sunrise paint the sky with shades of hope, she decided that was a story worth capturing. 3 months after her marriage ended, Natalie was starting over. The divorce was a cold legal affair, reducing 8 years of life to assets and terms. She sold the house they'd shared, finding a new apartment flooded with natural light, a fresh start for a photographer who needed to see things clearly again. Her best friend Lauren helped her move, bringing pizza, wine, and much-needed perspective. "You look lighter," Lauren said. "I think I was pretending for a long time," Natalie admitted. "Now I'm just heartbroken but hopeful." She raised her glass, remembering I am enough, all by myself. Work became her salvation. Natalie poured her energy into photography, taking on projects that challenged her. An unexpected call came from the Sinclair Foundation, a prestigious arts education charity. They wanted her to be the official photographer for their annual gala. The event was a chance to document something meaningful, capturing genuine moments of connection, not just manufactured smiles. Natalie accepted immediately, feeling a spark of her old passion return. The night of the gala, she moved through the elegant crowd, her camera an extension of her eye. She was capturing a young violinist when a man approached, his eyes warm and intelligent. He introduced himself as Julian Sinclair, the foundation's founder. He wasn't like the other wealthy donors. He seemed genuinely invested in the human stories behind the statistics. He'd built his foundation to give other kids the chances he never had. As Natalie photographed him interacting with the students, kneeling to a child's eye level, listening with genuine interest, she felt intrigued. Their conversation flowed easily, touching on art, purpose, and the search for authenticity. Julian's perspective resonated deeply with her. "You sound like someone who's thought a lot about authenticity," he observed. "Recent circumstances made it a priority," she replied carefully. Before the night ended, Julian offered her more work, photographing the foundation's programs in action. As they exchanged business cards, there was an unspoken connection. Driving home, Natalie found herself replaying their conversations. The next morning, her friend Lauren called, sensing a shift in Natalie's tone. "Met the foundation director," Natalie said, trying to keep it professional. "He was different, kind." Lauren laughed. "Just promise me you'll stay open to possibilities." When Julian's email arrived, inviting her to a coffee meeting to discuss the project, Natalie smiled as she accepted. She told herself it was just business. But as she picked out her outfit that Tuesday morning, a little extra care in her choice felt like the first glimmer of hope, a sign that her heart might be ready to let the light in again. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to follow for more. The coffee shop in Fremont was exactly the kind of place Natalie loved. Vintage furniture mixed with modern art, local musicians playing acoustic sets, and the rich aroma of freshly roasted beans. She arrived early, ordered a latte, and settled into a window seat with her portfolio. Julian appeared precisely on time, dressed casually in jeans and a navy sweater that made him seem more approachable than he had at the gala. He smiled when he spotted her. "Thank you for meeting me here instead of the foundation office," he said. "I find conversations flow better in relaxed settings." "I agree completely," Natalie replied, opening her tablet to show the gala photos she had edited. Some of my best creative discussions happen in coffee shops. Julian leaned forward, studying the images with genuine attention. His expression shifted as he scrolled, from appreciation to something deeper, almost emotional. When he reached the photograph of himself with the young artist, he paused. "You captured something I rarely see in pictures of myself," he said quietly. "You made me look human instead of polished. It matters more than you might realize." Natalie felt a warmth spread through her chest. Photography should reveal truth, not create illusions. I learned that lesson the hard way recently. Julian looked up from the tablet, his gaze thoughtful. "Do you want to talk about it?" Sometimes sharing difficult stories with strangers is easier than talking to people who knew us before everything changed. Something about his gentle invitation made Natalie want to share. She told him about Derek, the anniversary betrayal, the slow unraveling of a marriage she believed was solid. She explained how photographing love stories for others, while missing the death of her own, had shaken her faith in her ability to see clearly. Julian listened without interrupting. When she finished, he reached across the table and briefly touched her hand. "I am sorry you experienced that pain," he said sincerely. "Betrayal from someone we trust cuts deeper than any other wound. But if I may offer a perspective, your ability to see clearly was never the problem. Your husband's ability to be honest was the issue." Natalie blinked, surprised by how much those words eased the guilt she had been carrying. "You sound like someone who understands betrayal personally." Julian nodded slowly. "My ex-wife left me 5 years ago for someone she considered more exciting. I had built companies and accumulated wealth, but apparently I was too boring, too focused on work. She wanted adventure and passion, which she found with a professional race car driver." Despite the pain in his story, Natalie found herself smiling slightly. "A race car driver? That does sound like the opposite of a foundation director." Julian laughed, a genuine, unguarded sound. "Exactly. For a while, I questioned everything about myself. Maybe I was too serious. Then I realized I was trying to change fundamental parts of who I am to match someone else's vision of what I should be." They talked for 2 hours, foundation project becoming secondary to deeper conversations about values, healing, and the courage required to trust again. Natalie learned that Julian had started his foundation partially to process his divorce, channeling hurt into something constructive. He learned that she had begun taking self-portraits, documenting her own journey. "I would like to see those photographs sometime," Julian said as their coffee cups emptied. "If you are willing to share them." There is power in turning the camera on ourselves, in controlling our own narrative. "Maybe someday," Natalie replied carefully. "They feel very raw right now. I understand." Julian gathered his bag but didn't move to leave. "Can I ask you something that has nothing to do with work?" Natalie felt her heart rate increase. "Of course." "Would you be interested in having dinner with me this weekend? Not as photographer and client, but as two people who have survived heartbreak and might enjoy continuing this conversation." Natalie's immediate instinct was to decline, to protect herself. No. But something about Julian's openness, his willingness to be vulnerable, made her want to take a small risk. "I would like that," she said, surprised by her own certainty. "But I should be honest. I am not ready for anything complicated or serious. I am still figuring out how to trust my own judgment again." Julian's smile was warm and understanding. "How about we start with dinner between two friends who enjoy talking to each other? No pressure, no expectations beyond good food and honest conversation." Saturday evening arrived with a typical Seattle mist. Julian picked Natalie up from her apartment, immediately admiring the photography prints on her walls. "These are extraordinary," he said, studying a black and white image of Pike Place Market at dawn. "You have a gift for finding beauty in ordinary moments." "That is the kindest compliment a photographer can receive," Natalie replied. They went to a small, family-owned Italian place in Ballard. The restaurant was intimate, without being overly romantic, delicious, without being pretentious. They shared appetizers and stories that went deeper than their coffee shop conversation. Julian talked about his childhood, how music class became his sanctuary from poverty's stress. Natalie shared her own history, how choosing photography had felt like both rebellion and self-discovery. As dinner progressed, Natalie found herself laughing more freely than she had in months. Julian had a dry wit that caught her off guard, with sharp observations about Seattle culture. He asked questions that showed genuine interest in her thoughts. "What do you love most about photography?" he asked over dessert. Natalie thought carefully. "I love capturing the moment when people forget the camera exists and just be themselves. That instant when masks drop and truth appears, those are the images that matter." Julian set down his fork, looking at her with an expression that made her breath catch. "I think you see people the way I wish everyone could be seen, with curiosity and compassion instead of judgment." The air between them shifted, charged with possibility. She felt the pull of attraction mixed with the terror of vulnerability. After dinner, they walked along the Ballard waterfront. Julian offered his jacket when Natalie shivered, a touch of old-fashioned courtesy. They talked about everything from favorite books to travel dreams. "I admire how you rebuilt after your divorce," Natalie said. "You could have become bitter, but instead you created something that helps others." Julian leaned against the railing. "Bitterness felt like letting my ex-wife's choices define my future. I decided I would rather let my own values shape what came next." Natalie moved closer. "I think I am trying to do something similar with my photography, focusing on projects that matter. How is that working for you?" Julian asked, turning to face her. "Better than I expected," Natalie met his gaze. "Especially since meeting you." Confession hung between them. Julian reached out slowly and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. His touch was gentle, respectful. "Natalie, I need you to know something. I am not interested in rushing you. I like you tremendously, and I would like to see where this might go. But only at a pace that feels right for you." Natalie felt tears prick her eyes, moved by his patience. "I am scared," she admitted quietly. "Scared of trusting again, scared of missing red flags." "Those fears are completely valid," Julian responded, gently holding her hand. "I have them too. But I have also learned that avoiding risk means avoiding life. And you strike me as someone too vibrant to hide behind fear forever." Natalie squeezed his hand, making a decision that felt both terrifying and exactly right. "I would like to keep seeing you. Slowly, with honesty and patience. Can we try that?" Julian's smile could have lit the entire waterfront. "We can absolutely try that. How about we make a deal? Complete honesty, even when it is uncomfortable. No games, no pretending. If something feels wrong, we talk about it." A deal, Natalie agreed, feeling lighter than she had in a year. Complete honesty and real communication. They sealed the agreement with their first kiss, gentle and sweet and full of promise. Natalie felt something unlock in her chest, hope blooming where hurt had lived for so long. This wasn't a fairy tale. It was something better. To people who had survived pain, choosing to be brave enough to try again. 6 months later, Natalie stood in Julian's home office, now partially her photo studio, editing images from their trip to the San Juan Islands. Julian worked nearby, their comfortable silence punctuated by occasional conversation. Her phone buzzed with a message from her friend Lauren demanding updates. Natalie smiled and typed back that she was happy, genuinely happy. In a relationship built on honesty and mutual respect. "What are you smiling about?" Julian asked. "Lauren wants to know if you are still treating me well." Julian crossed the room and wrapped his arms around her from behind. "Tell her I am doing my absolute best every single day, and that you call me out immediately if I am not." Natalie leaned back into his embrace, feeling safe and seen. She had learned that love wasn't about perfect romance or grand gestures. It was about two imperfect people, choosing each other repeatedly, communicating honestly, and building something real. Her camera sat nearby, but for now, Natalie simply existed in this moment. Grateful for the journey that had brought her from betrayal to authentic love. The story wasn't over. It was simply beginning again, written with wisdom earned through pain and courage discovered through healing. Outside, the Seattle rain fell gently, washing the world clean and making space for new growth. Natalie closed her eyes and let herself believe in second chances, in the possibility that broken hearts could mend stronger than before, and in the transformative power of love that honored truth above all else. Thank you so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content. We'll see you in the next one.